Hello, it's Andy from Century Mallet Instrument Service. By now you probably already took out all of your components of your crate for the 145 that you purchased. So it might be laying out as you see here. These are all the components. It might be a little bit more put together depending on how we pack the crate. So it may not be in as many parts as you see here, but just in case, we did break it down all the way completely into its minimal parts. So I'll start right now by assembling the rack frame together, and you should see these two components, which are the Y components. They actually have numbers on them, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So they correspond with the legs that I will be getting right now that also have numbers written, stamped on each of them. So as you can see, there's a 4 on there, there's a 4 on here. The dimple goes right where the screw is going to go in to actually fasten onto the leg itself. So the dimple should be basically your locking point. You should see a 4 and a 4. They should line up like that. So go ahead and put the other legs in. Now, as you can see, I'm wearing gloves just so I don't get fingerprints all over your instrument. Obviously, this is going to be your instrument, so you don't have to wear gloves if you don't want to. But I'm just doing that so I don't get any fingerprints on it. These are your leg braces. They go from each side of the legs. You can see the corresponding screws are right in here. So there's going to be, it's not going to fit quite exactly, so you do have to give it a little bit of a push to go in. Older instruments are usually put together and held together with a little bit of friction, so it's not always going to be a perfect fit. So you want to make sure you get both of your leg cross pieces built before you do anything else. Again, look for the number and look for the dimple that's on the inside of that leg. And both of these braces are not, they are not numbered, or they're exactly the same, so it doesn't matter which one you grab. Just make sure that you, as you put them in, that this dimple, this countersunk part right here, actually goes against that knob right there. So this component will always go in this way, and that countersink is going to go against the tightening nut, just like that. That's what that countersink is for, is actually to catch the inside of that nut. And once you have these two all done and ready to go, you're going to take your cross piece. So this is the part where you're probably going to have to start paying a little bit more attention as to how you start putting things together. You'll see on one of them, one of the legs, you're going to have a screw and a nut on the side of it. And that's going to be for your angle brace that holds up the low end where it levels it off. So you want to make sure that this is facing you as the player. And you're going to want to make sure that this cross piece, this part that hangs down, that dangles down here, the L should be facing you. So again, you're going to see a dimple here. right on the cross piece. And that should correspond to the thumb screw that goes right in there. So you should feel it kind of lock in place. You can rock it back and forth if you need to make sure that you're actually nailing that in there. So you should feel it kind of sink in and catch. Once you have that ready to go, this is safe to do. You can leave it sit just so that it takes the weight off there. You do the same thing on this side. And now you have that all fastened and ready to go. From here, you're actually going to be doing kind of a combination of stuff. So this is your bottom cross piece, and as you can see, it has two slotted ends that are going opposite. So when you go from underneath, one side's going to catch on one side, and the other side's going to catch from the other. So basically you're going to be doing this motion, or if you have it this way, you'll be doing it that motion. There's really no wrong way, as this piece is right in the center. Now this piece that dangles down, you are going to want to slide that right in here and then screw that on, just like that. Actually, let's go back a second. I actually forgot to attach the pedal. It's going to be a little bit easier to attach the pedal when this is off. Now again, I'm not sure if the pedal's actually going to be off of this cross piece, but this is a 5/32 Allen wrench. So if you have that handy, if not, you'll have to get one. Now again, there's no right way or wrong way that this is going to go on, just as long as you can ratchet the pedal, because it's going to be able to go 360 degrees the way you go. So you're going to see kind of the felt side, and you're going to see this notch right here. That little notch goes into these cut pieces right here. These little slots that they have, and that's what's going to cause it to ratchet, so that it can lock into position, whichever way you have it. Once you have that started by hand, go ahead and take the Allen wrench and tighten it down. You don't have to give it too many turns. Torque pretty well. And if you want it to be a little bit tighter so it doesn't ratchet as easily, you're going to be moving it with your foot anyway, so it's going to be pretty simple to and pretty easy to move, even if it's pretty tight. But the tighter it is, the more noise it's going to make, because it's going to be really, really tight. So we'll go ahead and put this on now. And once you have all that attached, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to put on your cross braces. Now when you attach this bottom cross piece, you want to make sure to have plenty of room here to leave this open because you're going to need room to put the angle braces in. May pop out, but don't worry about that. So they go in the same spot. As you can see, just like on the other angle, just like on the cross braces here from leg to leg, there's going to be a countersink that goes in there, and that corresponds to this nut, this part of the nut that is kind of bulbous. So you always want this angle brace to go on the outside because that's what has the countersink. Same thing on this side. And again, they're not going to be a perfect fit. You are going to need to kind of pull and tug on some of these components. You want to take this opportunity now that you have the rack pretty much assembled to make sure that everything is completely tight. And make sure that you have everything on. Now that you have that, the next thing that we're going to be able to do are the end pieces. Again, I was telling you about the screw and nut that are on the bottom part of this. So you put in your low end piece. That's what you're going to do. Now you're going to see that it's not quite lined up. You're going to have to move it up a little bit. Alright, so that causes this end piece to actually level out so it's a little bit straighter. And that prevents any kind of wobbleness or any movement of this low end piece. You don't want to tighten this too much here. You do want to tighten this all the way, but you don't want to tighten this too much. Just kind of leave it a little bit loose. Get your high end piece. This does not have anything to tighten against. So this just pretty much sits there. There's nothing missing on that. Now from here, really the next, you can really do any of the resonators or damper bar, but the damper bar is going to be a lot easier to connect if you just do that one first. So we'll do that. So this damper bar is not like any of the damper bars you see on something modern. So this is going to fit into these two screws here that you're going to see. So go ahead and fit it in to this screw first. Put this down. Slide it in. Again, it's not going to be a perfect fit. You have to actually move some stuff over. Everything is basically put together and staying together with tension. Now that you have that in there, you can go ahead and tighten this down. Again, this is going to kind of move a little bit, so you're going to need that when you put in the resonators and the rails. You're going to need that movement. So don't tighten this down all the way just yet, but make sure it's at least a little bit finger tight. take this opportunity. This is going to be the easiest way to connect this component here, and this upper pull rod is going to be, it's not quite it's not quite like the others that you see on a regular vibraphone nowadays, and it's going to fit a little bit weird, so just you're going to have to kind of manipulate it a little bit to get it in there. And you can always adjust it just like you do any other vibraphone on here once you have it in, but getting it in when there's nothing in your way is a lot easier to do. The next thing we'll do are the resonators. And you'll see there are going to be some holes here correspond to your brackets down on the side. So you want to put in that low end first and the high end. And here you can attach your belts now. The belts are pretty much in this high end block. They never come out. There's no way that they're able to come out, so you can really just they're already in there. They're already set. Once that's all attached, the next thing you're going to want to do is actually to plug in your motor, just so you can play around with it. And you can kind of see how it's going to work. So there's actually a plug here in the high end block that you're going to be able to plug in your motor, just like that. It's not a real tight fit. It's just right in there. Get an extension cord. Now, it's not the quietest motor in the world, but it's not very loud either. For being close to 100 years old, it works pretty well. It is variable speed. And the knob is pretty sensitive. Now, the knob itself also at some point was knocked, and so it's not quite as straight as it once was. So there, every now and again it does catch a little bit, but you can just go past that catch and you'll definitely get some more variation in the speed. And once you tested the motor out and everything works fine, go ahead and turn that off. And install your rails. Once you have your rails installed, all you have to do is put on the bars and you'll be set and ready to go. that you have that all installed, you can now check to see how high you'd like the felt to go up against the bars. Also check to make sure your bars are not resting on any insulators, that they're actually on the saddles themselves. I'm going to test this out. Test out the motor as well. All right. There you go. I hope you enjoy your instrument. That's how you put it together. Thanks.